And then we also have a sister concern which is called Cotton Incorporated. Probably you would have also learned a lot of new technologies coming on the cotton side of it. So the mandate over there is to promote generally all the generic cotton. So the mandate that we have is to, on the sustainability front, is that we have been speaking with a lot of brand retailers. We have been speaking with a lot of industry. Actually, we work across the value chain, right from the spinning mill up to the brand retailers, and then we hear them out what they want to look at. And what came out very clearly was that when we talk of sustainability, one of the things which needs to be clear is transparency. I mean, we really have to be very open. I think that is what we also discussed in your session before, that why not share something good that you have been doing. So when we were speaking with brand retailers, with the industry, transparency came up as one of the very important topic. And along with that, there was also a need of traceability. So these two things were very important for us. And all the work probably that we have done in last 3-4 years is around these sustainability, and then the other components are transparency and the traceability of it. The other things, yes, we can talk across. But yes, our main objective remains is that we are promoting US cotton across the globe. And you will say, why in India? I mean, India is like number one, number two producer of cotton. So why on earth, India will be needing US cotton here? But yes, to tell you, US has one of the largest share of cottons coming to India. Until the duty was imposed, which was imposed in 2021, the US cotton has reached a share of like 70%. We had 1.3 million bales of US cotton coming to India. Some of the reasons are very, very clear. One is that for all your clean white shirts, contamination-free cottons, that is where US cotton fits in very well. And then Supima, I think probably all of you over here know, is one of the luxurious cotton. And when you really want to make nice products, that is where it comes to. So that is more or less what we do, Ganesh.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Before I start, I think I want to thank IFF for bringing me here, Nikhil and Lokesh. Thank you so much, and special thanks to Prem and Satish as well to bringing me here. So my name is Gowri Shankar and Gowri Nagarajan. I'm representing Covation Bio-Materials. It's a new spin-off, one of the latest spin-off of DuPont. I had worked 20 plus years with DuPont. And I think DuPont is synonymous with textiles, the three most, and I'll come to Covation in a second. Polyester, nylon, and spandex were all inventions from DuPont, much before I was born even. So, but it is just amazing to step back and see the three most important known synthetic materials came from a single company. That is mind-boggling to me. And if you look at each one of those materials, one of them is good for drape, one of them is soft, and one of them is stretch. I'm not even going to say which one is which. I'm sure people can figure that out. And when the scientists wanted to encapsulate each one of this material, because they could predict in this journey, what does textile need, and people wanted to put in as many features into one fiber as possible. We now today have, I'm sometimes I'm surprised to see 4 content, 4 different, etc. The company was looking at, is there a way in which I can take drape, stretch as well as softness into one fiber? And that was the pursuit which resulted in Sorona, which was the product. And of course, DuPont, with its own wave of change, they got out of textiles. I think the 1 or 2 fibers that still reside with them is Kevlar, which is the bulletproof fiber, and Nomex, which is the firefighting fiber. But we came out last year as Covation Biomaterials. We are continuing the journey, and the philosophy is some amount of biology is in the fiber that we do. Sorona, in fact, is a plant-based ingredient is there. 37% is plant-based. The rest 63 is still petro-based. But the idea is to give something that is more renewable, but at the same time give a product that has multiple features when the designer has to look at incorporating into their garment. Outside of this, we have raw materials. We look at the way in which the raw material is produced. We go back to the farming because our product is plant-based. We go back to the farm level and make sure that even the farming practices are sustainable, not just the fact that the ingredient is sustainable. Are there practices being done at the farm level that is also sustainable? And of course, we have multiple products in the portfolio in the future which will have either less or more or all of biology in it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I represent today the Birla Cellulose group of companies. We are the pulp and fiber division of the Aditya Birla Group. Very proudly Indian. Our growth journey is very closely linked with the growth journey of India. The first parent plant was put up 1 week after India's independence with a mandate that we have to clothe India's population. And with the resources and having lost a lot of land bank to our friendly neighbors, we had to look for alternative sources of fibers that could be then used for clothing. With that as inception, today we own our own forestry in Canada. We manage the forests. So these are we are amongst the only fiber MMCF cellulosic fiber producers that are into sustainable forestry. And that has given us a leading edge with Canopy, which is the world's leading body, which is governing ancient and endangered forests. And we've been the leaders on the Canopy Hot Button report for the last 3 years. Besides sustainable forestry, we're also very deeply engaged into responsible manufacturing. So it's not just about ESG, it's about controlling air, chemical extrusions and emissions and water saving in our manufacturing facilities. And we are committed to have all our 7 plants, 4 in India, 1 in Indonesia, 1 in Thailand, 1 in China, to all comply to the EU BAT standard, which is the world's highest standard controlling all these 13 emission and norms. I think for us, it is about sustainable and circular fibers in viscose, modal, and lyocell, which we are pioneering. And a very big next step journey is in terms of circularity. So how can we be one of the take-backers of the waste that we generate as the textile industry, be it cutting table waste, be it even consumer waste? And how can we bring it back into fresh fiber that can be used back in the industry? And with that as an agenda, it is, we are committed back to Canopy that we will be bringing out 100,000 tons of next generation fiber solutions by 2024. So these are some of the endeavors that we are working with, not only with a lot of the brand partners, but a lot of the pulp innovators and R&D centers across the world. And that's what we're hoping to work to a better tomorrow.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much for the audience. Nikhil, Lokesh, it's been a wonderful journey till now. I'm really glad to be a part of this journey. Thanks, Ganesh, for bringing us to the panel today here. So, my name is Navneet Krishnan, and I am representing brand solutions for South Asia for a company called Archroma. So, what is Archroma? So, Archroma is a chemical company. Seems to be a very new name for people who are in the fashion industry. But to just give an impression, we are the people who provide the basic colors, the basic chemicals, which helps in creating the aesthetics and functionality in bringing the color, the kind of finish to the fashion and textile industry. It's a company which is more than 160 years old in terms of legacy. It started with Sandoz. So if we have an immediate recall of calcium Sandoz tablets, very famous in India, it actually was manufacturing dyestuffs and chemicals in Basel, Switzerland. And then it moved, and we have companies like Clariant, which is a part of the legacy. Then we have Huntsman Textile Chemicals, Textile Effects, which is a part of this journey now of Archroma, and also the BASF Textile Chemicals. So it's a group of a lot of multinational companies, a lot of their products, a lot of intellectual patents, which is available with us. And we would be sharing more about what we are trying to work in terms of safety and sustainability.
Wonderful. I'm going to start this. I'm not a chemical or a fiber expert, right? As a consumer, I'm going to ask you a question. as a consumer, we don't see many of you transparently. Let's take it. Go to a common consumer and ask, right, what is happening here, and you occupy most of what we wear. That is the fabric of what you all here for. For my question is that how do you create awareness? Because the problem is that the intermediaries are brands and retailers. For a moment, let's assume most of them are commercial minded, right? Now the point here is that if you have to create a, I think many of you are doing it. What I'm just saying is, at a holistic level, we all remember brands more than what gets into a brand. But if I go to computers, we remember Intel more than laptops, as much as laptop, right? But you are that Intel inside in some form, right? Intel is just a placeholder. But my question here is this, right? Now, what are you doing in your area which will bring the basic raw material alive as much as the brand? Is there any constraints? It'll be good to know. And if you have done something successful, worth for others to learn.
I think Ganesh, you already pointed out. We think that we are Intel inside, but the way consumers think about Intel more than the, the HCL or HP. So then yes, the way we working here is it's very difficult, honestly speaking, to reach directly to the consumers without finding a route through a brand or retailer. So the way we have been working is we have been tying up. Although if you talk about us, we have started an initiative almost 3 years back, which is called US Cotton Trust Protocol. And it's only a 3 years baby. And we almost have 36 global brands who have signed on to the protocol. And for very obvious reasons, one of the things I just explained to you is the transparency, that everybody wants to know that where their product has come from. I think everyone really needs to know the origin of product, especially if you are sitting in India. It's not a big problem because we have enough cotton for our own, domestic brands. But if you talk of US or you talk of Europe, a lot of Xinjiang cotton, I think, the issue of the Uyghur labor has been really on the top of everyone there. So it's a really big issue if you talk of Europe and US, and no one really wants to have any of that cotton content coming from that region. So that is why we led this strong initiative on the transparency and again traceability. Not sure again, about Indian brands, are they really looking too stronger towards traceability? But one thing I can tell you, because we work very closely with again global brand retailers, everyone is looking towards how they can track back to their original product. Again, coming back to your point, again, this is now, we are actually an Intel only for the brand at the moment. But probably very soon you're going to highlight that this brand, which is called US Cotton Trust Protocol, is also coming to the consumer space, maybe not in India as quickly as we anticipate, but yes, definitely in US and Europe. So the way we have done it is from the two sides. One is there's a lot of documentation, right? We have physical documentation, and everyone looks into physical documentation where you grew cotton or you produce your yarns, fabrics, apparel. So what we have done is we have tied up with a company called Textile Genesis. Probably all of you would be knowing that. So there's a blockchain technology. So what happens there is that a brand retailer who is working with us on that platform is actually able to track each and every order based on their purchase order and the style number. So they have a physical map in front of them, that from where the cotton originated, where the yarn was produced, where fabric was produced, just seeing online. Because certainly we are done with the static certificates. I think with all the new technologies of the PDFs, you can have so many certifications. So I think the real thing is to have a real knowledge, where your product or your order standing is now. So one was that. The other thing is, even you have this data management, you still need anything, you need something more concrete. So we have actually tied up with another technology partner called Auretain. So what Auretain does is, Auretain is able to tell on the basis of the isotopes in the cotton, and doing the mapping based on the 16 different elements, that whether that cotton originated from US, from Texas, from California, or Memphis, or it originated from Xinjiang, or it originated from India. And I think brand retailers are really very interested. So coming back to again, intelligence, right? You pointed out the intelligence. So we are really using that intelligence in a proper manner. I think one of the presentations was also made that if you're using intelligence in a good way, you are really able to make like 20% margins or the IT kind of margins. So we are using, so we are really a data-driven, we are following this data-driven approach. Again, on the sustainability side, each grower who is a partner for the stress protocol program, he has to say, how much energy is using, how much water consumption, how much greenhouse gas emission per pound of the fiber is being emitted. And we are going to measure each farm that how much water consumption is going to happen, how much energy is being used, how much carbon emissions. And then by the end of the year, again, the grower is going to come back to us and again report it, has he made any improvements? So going grower by grower and then coming to the national level. And that is how, we are arriving to our sustainability.
Got it. Gowri?
I think maybe other people should take this thing because we are doing very less of that actually. So your question is, how do the consumers recognize? Right? I think I face that question in my own family. So good question. First thing is, I think you just cannot. The times have gone now that you just cannot do it alone. It just takes a lot of energy to reach out to a lot of people. So the one way we are trying to do, I would say, whether we are doing it right well, is to collaborate with those brands who are reaching out and want to communicate. Whether there is this concept, who is going to read the tag or whatever, but still there are brands out there who want to communicate. So that's the only way we are able to do it, is figure out those partners who want to ensure that their consumers are getting a good quality product and who want to tell something what is inside. We partner with them. Otherwise, those days when we would make a lot of effort to get the Lycra word out, or some of the brands that DuPont made, that was all, we went and did the marketing. Those days are gone. We just don't have the bandwidth to do that. It's more done through the partners.
So it's a very, very important, very pertinent question, especially now with the 2025 regulations coming in Europe, and then we see that translating to the point that was being made about even country of origin of material, which is becoming very, very pertinent. Let me start by saying that back in 2015, the company definitely had a very solid vision for India, and they started this brand. As a fiber producer, we were directly working with the spinners and therefore not coming into the forefront directly. But they launched this brand called Diva. And that became the face of the viscose fiber brand to the Indian consumer. This is largely, we saw the Liva fiber adoption, the education to the consumer. What is this material? Is it polyester? Is it silk? What can, where can we use it? And what is the end attribute? Over the years, we've had major studies to, to show that it's today attributable to good quality fabric. I'm not sure as a fiber producer that was, the intent, but it was one way of outreaching to the final consumer. It is a tough challenge, definitely. When we started this journey into traceable branded fibers like Liva Eco Viscose or Liva Eco Modal, that gave us, by using the tags as a end conversation point to the consumer. We could convey that it's sustainable forestry, it is using less water, some of the attributes of biodegradability we could start effectively consuming. Today, I think we've got about 45 brands who are using co-branded materials from our, attributes in their messaging and branding journey. Simultaneously, we are distributing over 6 crore Liva tags within India itself, and there are more within the heartlands that the category teams are doing. Additionally, what's becoming more and more important is for the consumer today to know, where is my garment coming from? What is the complete material journey? Which was the farm that gave the cotton, or which tree, what kind of tree was used to make what, the material that I'm using. So we started, besides working with Textile Genesis, we have our own traceability tool, which is actually generating a QR code which brands are putting on their tags, and that material journey the consumer is scanning and seeing the complete journey. It's a customizable information that the brands can choose what they want to communicate. And I must tell you that it's not just a global thing. We've got two of the very large leading brands in India who are also using that material journey tool to talk to their consumers. But come 2025, I think all of us Intel Inside people will have to be more out there because we'll all become more mainstream. A lot more needs to be done for sure.
This indeed is a very interesting question for a company like Archroma because we are at far, far more back end in terms of the whole value chain. But it's also an interesting question because this platform is helping us to highlight what we have been able to do with brands. So prima facie, yes, we are a B2B company. So we are more working with the industries, more working with, in terms of what is the industry wanting to do in terms of producing the end products. That's more about apparel and fashion. So the touch point with the fashion industry was something which is always missing with the chemical organizations. So what companies like Archroma do is we always try to find touch points. So I am only talking to brands and retailers. So my role in the organization is only about promoting concepts of Archroma, promoting the safety aspects. So the most important thing which comes when we work with dyestuffs and chemicals is many of us are aware, many of us know to a certain extent, but at a consumer level, they're not really aware about it. But it's also not about, making it more scary for them. So what we do is we work with our chemistries which are very well screened. So apart from, if you look into the supply chain of the textile industry, except for the insecticides and pesticides, which basically come in cotton farming, and even if people use this kind of cotton in the apparel industry, all the other impurities, you would see it runs in thousands and thousands of hazardous chemicals, which are actually into these dyestuff and chemicals. Some of them are hazardous, some of them are reprotoxic, some of them are carcinogens. And you have a list of it actually. And many of us, even working in the industry, will not remember all these chemicals. So forget a consumer really getting aware about it. But there is also a trend which is happening in the industry globally. So we also talked about greenwashing as something, when brands are saying we have been doing this, we have been doing that in terms of sustainability. We have tried to work on energy, we've been trying to work on water, we've been trying to work on hazardous chemicals. There's a new trend which is emerging, which is called as green blushing in the Western world. What does this mean? This means that as a brand, you're conscious that you're actually using ingredients, whether it's going to be at a fiber level or at dyestuffs and chemicals level or wherever it is going to be as a part of the garment. You're consciously ensuring that you're using products which are safe and sustainable. And you're not trying to communicate this to the end consumer. But as a brand, you yourself are now conscious of whatever I'm going to give to the consumer, irrespective of whether they know it or not, but I'm giving something which is safe and sustainable. Now, from Archroma, what we have been doing is, of course, we had this the COVID session, which was running for years. But after this COVID, we also saw a good amount of inquiries coming in from the market when we were talking to brands and retailers, and mostly from the domestic market right in India, and I'm very proud to say that. The experience of the customer is, of course, as a consumer, we go to a retail shop, we look into it in terms of apparel. The first thing what we look into is in terms of the color. So the color attracts us to go near the particular article where it is. Then we open it up, we look at the style, the fit. And one major aspect which we found out was, what are the consumers really trying to experience? They're looking at colors which last. We're talking about durability. So one of the major aspects of durability, apart from the fibers which are coming in, is, do the colors really last after multiple home launderings? The real problem in the industry or with the consumer was, most of the consumers were very unhappy in terms of a black, which doesn't remain black after 3 or 4 washes. It becomes grayish, it becomes pinkish, and it becomes completely localized fading. And here we found that we have been selling crores and crores of brand assurance tags. We've got more than 50 brands who have adopted these kind of tags right in India. Some of them are Indian, some of them are global. And these tags are giving an assurance to the brand and to the end consumer that the garment which they are actually trying to buy is having the color retention property. And that adds more value to an end consumer in terms of getting a feel that I'm buying a product which is actually right. And that's one way we are touching consumers. We have a couple of other concepts like we have a concept called earth colors. Now, what are earth colors? Very common terminology. It's a patented technology coming in from Archroma. What is it? So most of the dyestuffs, the synthetic dyestuffs, come from petroleum crude. The intermediates come from petroleum crude. In the case of earth colors, the invention is about can we use the leftover of the agriculture waste or the herbal industry, which is normally dumped. We use this and convert this into our dyestuffs, which is then going into for coloration. And this is a brand-related program because we work closely with brands for this kind of programs. We've got more than 50 brands who have adopted this particular concept. Uppal was talking about the QR code. We went one level ahead, wherein we worked with a concept called NFC. It's called near field communication technology. It's kind of a chip which is a part of the label, and this communicates the full story right from where did the cotton come from till who was the garmenter who was stitching it and what kind of value addition it created for every stakeholder who really made this. So that's something which we have been doing in Earth Colors. And one new invention is the concept of fiber colors, where we're trying to use those leftover, the post-consumer wastes and the industrial wastes, converting that into our colorants, which could be then again used for coloration. One very, very important thing which is happening in the industry, and that's the last point which I would say in terms of how do we touch the consumer, is we all talk about freshness in garment. And the moment we talk about freshness in garment is we talk about antimicrobials. Now, what is so special about antimicrobials? The objective is to keep the garment fresher so that the garment doesn't smell when we wear it for a long period of time. Now, antimicrobials are classified as biocides. So it's like your insecticides, it's your pesticides. What are biocides? Biocides are again poisonous chemical substances which has a tendency to hinder or kill microorganisms. And this is what is applied on the apparel which we are all wearing. Different chemistries. We got chemistries based on silver, we got chemistries based on quartz-selene, we got chemistries based on zinc pyrithions. Zinc pyrithions, especially in the polyester, recently they have found that it causes birth defects. So these kind of discussions are going to happen in the industry. But what's more important is, do we have a solution? And can this be communicated through an effective tag to give that brand assurance? The trend globally is moving towards, can we go for a non-biocidal chemistry, but still keeping the garment fresher? So now we have a technology which is coming in from an organization called Sanitized, which we represent. It's a metal-free, non-biocidal chemistry, still keeping the garment fresher. The same level of efficacy which was coming in from an antimicrobial product, but now it's completely biocide-free, metal-free, highly sustainable. And this is also communicated using tags to the end consumers. Now, the idea of pointing all these aspects is it's not to give a scary picture to the consumer in terms of safety, but the brands are getting conscious, and that's where we are trying to make the brands more and more conscious. So we work with brands where we find there's a synergy of working together, where there is a common vision. And then we look into it in terms of what is it that we want to communicate to the end consumer. And we also help the brands to communicate this with the right appropriate technology in terms of the verbiage which we want to use. That's it from Anne.
Got it. Now, what I hear through this conversation is we are doing a lot of communication through tags. Imagine we use all of you in a garment and brand themselves want to communicate another stuff, just on the lighter side. Is there a better way to communicate? Right? Is there a better way to communicate? And I heard about NFC here. Now, can there be a one chip which can embed the entire DNA of that product, which all the information can go in, which today, mobile is with everybody. The moment mobile comes closer, you get to know the entire history. That leads me to, first of all, I acknowledge, not able to appreciate fully the science of it, but definitely, what you're up to is phenomenal. But I still see that there is a gap between how much of work is happening on this side is not transparently visible to customers. Customers finally buy a cotton, it's a polyester, they know the generic names. I'm talking about not the industry people, right? Common consumers don't understand any of this, right? If you go home, I think that's where the situation is. If you don't hit home at that level, it's not going to become, democratic across in terms of scale and all of that. Everything we want to do at scale, right? That's one. That leads me to this, right? And I want to take an analogy from medicine. Now, we are not experienced medical professional, but we are all, let's say, human being. Therefore, whenever we have a problem, we go to a doctor, and it's called medicine 1.0. How many of you have visited last time a doctor, right? What is the cause? You had some problem, right? Just raise your hands. If you had a problem, visited a doctor. Have you visited a doctor without a problem? That's rarely, right? Now, that's medicine 1.0, which is a very reactive medicine. Today, scientifically, a problem happens after lots of things have gone wrong. It's an extreme end of diagnosis, right? We go when there is a real problem, right? For the real medicine is a proactive medicine. And proactive medicine calls for in a human being. For a moment, I'm going to assume the reason I'm bringing this analogy is if a fashion product is a human being, actually it is. It has lots of components. Each one of us are contributing to that. We are adding value to it. We are putting lots of stuff. But the question is, to check human health, the very simple stuff, right? What's your blood sugar and all? Let's call it biomarkers, right? Now, biomarkers are used for testing human health. A complex medicine has been easily translated to a normal person in simple methods, right? If your sugar is under 80, it's good, or under 90, whatever that is, right? Now, the same way, if your blood pressure is this, for what is the sustainability equivalent of this? If I have to convert all of this into sustainability markers for a product, who does it doesn't matter. When a consumer, I'm just throwing this as an idea, as a debate. You can address this from your own area. For what are those biomarkers which all of us can understand, or the sustainability markers, right? Based on which you can say this is good and bad. And I also want to, provocate with one. I always thought, been in the industry for a long time, I thought natural is good. How many of you think natural is good? I was told, okay, I had to validate this. I was told, is silk is worse than polyester. Silk is natural, right? And sari and all we keep buying. But silk is worse than polyester. If you just look at the entire value chain, equivalent of sustainability, silk is not sustainable, right? But it is natural. So I want each one of you to tell some truth, which is maybe anti your industry, okay? Which is to say, I'm a cotton producer, but this cotton is not good. Can you just tell us some secrets which are anti, maybe industry, it's not yours, but I just want to provocate with some thoughts like this. For a silk manufacturer will never come and say this, right? But if you can give us some trade secrets which are even beyond, just some common stuff, right? Because many people we understand, right? We just think natural is all good. We made a lot of mistakes, bought lots of silk sarees in life.
So then we have two parts of the question here, right? So I'll first attempt the first part of it. You were asking about, do we have any performance measurement, right, for sustainability, that specifically, or the area that we are working in? So yes, I think Mr. Tyagi also pointed out earlier that we don't have that energy efficiency index like 3-star rating or 5-star rating on the overall product. But what I want to highlight here is we do have actually under US Cotton, we work with a lot of spinning mills. And we have come up with, this year, we have launched a program called Mill Performance Index. So this is actually a unique program for all the mills whom we work with. And this is one index which tells the health of the spinning mill. So we calculate the wastage. Let's say there are 25 mills or 30 mills who are enrolled into that program. And they're just to give you a small example, and they're making 30 yarn count. So there are 25 mills, and then that specific mill is going to be rated against all the other mills. And if the other mill is going through a value loss of 10%, and if he's doing a value loss of 5%, then we are going to tell them you need to really make your improvement here, because there is a mill who's doing only 5% value loss. So that is on the wastage side. Then there is the machinery efficiency. So you might have similar kind of machinery, but so we also compare that. So there are 5-6 different parameters that we say this is a mill performance index, and this is really very helpful for all the mills. So because reducing a wastage, improving the product quality, running your mill efficiently, letting them earn more money out of it, I think is still a part of sustainability. So that is one thing we are doing. Now, coming back to the other question, talking bad about cotton, I think I probably won't be able to talk anything bad about it. But yes, something I can tell you one thing which nobody likes here is the volatility. I think one of the things that really nobody likes in the industry is to see the prices going like this and going like this, and then how do you really plan? You don't have one price to settle on it unless you have really, nicest of your brains sitting there. But you don't know, today it rains a lot in Gujarat. Tomorrow, there is no rain in Texas. Texas, which was about to produce like 5 million bales, is now going to produce only 2 million bales. So it's totally, up to the nature, Mother Nature, how things are going to come up. So volatility is one thing which is a part of cotton, and will continue to remain until we
Let
have
me
Mother
maybe,
Nature.
because you're not revealing something.
I
Therefore,
think
let me
I've
ask you.
revealed
Let me
that,
ask you
right?
another question. If you have to have a hierarchy of fibers, right? Where does cotton stand in the sustainability angle to it?
I think I will just put it the hierarchy of fibers. I'll just see the hierarchy of man, like Neanderthals, or where we came from. Like 7,000 years, cotton have been there. I think probably the first fiber that we can remember ourselves, that we close ourselves with, except talking of leaves and all those things. So cotton was the first fiber that we close ourselves, and we still are clothing ourselves with that. The first time a human is born, probably you won't have the child, you want to have cotton fiber going there. And the moment you are dead, you want to have cotton fiber on your white sheet on yourself. I think cotton remains with me and will remain ever with me.
Got it. Cotton is the most sustainable. Is the message. Okay.
And I'm expected to follow that up. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so since there is no one representing nylon, we will do nylon bashing. No, actually,
World Cup is going on, no? Right? They would be wearing nylon shirts.
that's polyester. That's polyester. Yeah. Okay, so the two metrics, actually, as I said, this was a journey where they wanted to do. In fact, all of this was 100% synthetic based. So the aspect with which Sorona came into being is they wanted to figure out a way, as you said, natural is very light. So they wanted to figure out if they could bring an element of natural/biology into the realm of things. Why should everything be fossil fuel based? Can there be element into the synthetics itself that can incorporate, natural element? So that's how Sorona, the first thing that we say is partially plant based. We don't say partially petro based, right? So it's partially plant based. The second one is, it is also to indicate that there is a journey towards figuring out if we can make a synthetic fiber that is possibly, natural based but still synthetic in nature. In the sense, Dr. Tyagi mentioned about, perseverance, and in Surat, we successfully launched our fiber as a silk replacement. Part of the issue was the processes that the industry was doing to the to a fabric to get that fine aesthetics, etc. We went in and said, what if the fiber had the inherent softness, inherent all the things that you need, the color pickups, etc. You don't need to go through those processes. So people have incorporated that. It's a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight. The material is not cheap. So that's the pursuit. How do you incorporate those elements of the nature's, the best offerings, but then into a synthetic offering? The other two metrics we go after is the total energy used to produce that polymer itself, the material itself, which is the energy used, and which is we compare versus nylon as 30% lower. And then the other one is comparing to the 1 kilogram of nylon, how much is the greenhouse gas emissions? So these are the three metrics by which we are now following. And the last thing, when we talk about this is at the fiber stage, but then when we talk about the end garment itself, we go in and express about, we're not doing a great job about it, but we talk a lot about durability. So a durable garment is a sustainable garment in itself, something that you find meaning in wearing again and again, but where you don't lose that aesthetics of whatever be the thing, comfort, stretch, recovery, etc. if you prolong that, if you do a 2x or 3x, yes, you may delay the purchase this thing, but in a way it is also sustainable. So these are the aspects we are focusing on.
Got it. Anything against plant-based?
No, no, I cannot think of it. That's okay. She's going next, okay.
Yeah, let's have fun. I think, yeah.
You can ask the fun questions then. So let me start by saying that yes, we are of forest origin as on date, and that puts us. We're amongst the top two, if I may say so. Viscose, modal, and lyocell manufacturers in the world. Our endeavor and goal is not to be the largest, but to be the most sustainable. Um, uh, we end up working with a myriad plethora of industry partners. So starting from the Forest Stewardship Council, who guide and mandate as to that we are in our own forestry, we're planting 3 plants for every 1.27 trees that we are taking down.
Awesome.
And that too is under the aegis of the FSC, who says that if it is this variety of a plant, for example, if it's a maple, you can only start taking down a maple after it's 60 years. Okay, because that's when it's kind of crossed its oxygen, output maximum age. Then they also mandate what is the acreage you can take down and how much of the regenerated forest you need to leave around that area. So it's a very complex calculation there, and all the green covers in all our self-managed forests have increased. There's scientific data file to prove that. Now, besides working with Canopy, we are, as we're looking ahead to the requirements of the global industry, it's not about manufacturing today. It's about how businesses will be sustainable, circular, come 2030, 2040. Our own net carbon is, our journey is mapped to 2040 with an internal target of 2035. We're also looking at how we can reduce this dependency on forests. So there is a collaborator in Australia called Nanolose that we are looking at agricultural waste. So sugarcane molasses, food waste to regenerate fibers from. Today it's largely, we are endeavoring, today's endeavor is 30% can we reduce dependency on forests and bring it down to textile waste, both pre and post consumer. But then can we even step it to one notch higher? So that's on the forest and the materiality of it. On the second aspect, it's already been touched upon about manufacturing efficiency. We are guided by the HIG MSI Material Sustainability Indices, which we've improved from 77 to 93%. There's also all our pulp and fiber sites are under third-party audits. Brands, of course, do their own audits. There are all kinds of annual, quarterly, daily audits that keep happening. In fact, we've also pointed out an audit fatigue on many, many occasions as well. An interesting scoop, if I may were to share with you. So Nagda, being our parent plant, is obviously under maximum fire because it's our oldest plant and it's got the beauty of having smaller lines, which makes it very R&D friendly. So on one side, we've got innovators from all over the world working in Nagda plant because there's smaller lines, you can run trials, and we've got a very, very talented scientist team, R&D scholars who are working there. Now, we came under fire in 2017. There was a UK agency called Changing Markets. I don't know if many of you have heard of it. It brought into scope the business of dirty fashion. And it was a very landmark, I would say, for the manufacturing industry for man-made cellulosics, because it also brought everybody up to date. As you might be thinking what you're doing is the best, but is that really enough from a global perspective? And with that mandate, we put in a zero liquid discharge facility in our Nagda plant. So literally, what is the water after effluent treatment, which was being discharged into the Chambal River, was stopped. 2019 September, in the midst of COVID, there's zero drop going out from that facility. In fact, it's a wall there. Now, what's happened is that last year the Pollution Control Board approached us back and said, why are you not releasing water into the Chambal? So we're like, dude, we've put in the world's first zero liquid discharge plant. It's a landmark in the viscose industry. They're saying, yeah, but you realize because you've done that, the pollution levels in the Chambal have gone up. Because all other industries around us still releasing water, and we were releasing effluent treated water. So now we're back on the board saying, yeah, here we're working with the UK agency saying that now it is to be done. So those are some of the, because you were looking for a snippet.
No, absolutely. I think, see, and I always believe that in the extreme we have more information. Right? I was just pushing some of you in the corner.
Okay. So from the kind of from the metrics perspective, in the chemical management perspective, there are a lot of global compliance organizations. So in chemical management, there are many actually, not one or two. If I remember, I read somewhere around more than 80 plus. Dr. Tyagi can quote something more. But I've heard more than 80 plus compliance bodies who are actually trying to manage the chemical inventories. So from that perspective, what is in trend today is about, there's a new concept called as manufacturing level restricted substance list. So what was previously, kind of an RSL, a restricted substance list, which brands would try to get from a third party in terms of a list which they had in terms of what kind of hazardous chemicals should not be there in the garment. Now, where are these chemicals coming in from? So Greenpeace came up with a big report. In 2011, they came up with the dirty laundry report, and brands were actually surprised in terms of the attack was directly on them. In terms of, these are the brands who are working with these mills, and look at the water which is coming out, look at the air which is there. And this was a kind of a document which was running in hundreds and hundreds of pages in public domain. And then it did not stop with the dirty laundry report. It came with a series of reports which was actually directly attacking the brands and the textile industry. So brands also started looking at it. What is it that we could do? Because brands were never focusing on tier 2, tier 3. It was all managed through vendors. And at some point of time, they realized that, okay, where are these hazardous chemicals coming in from? These ingredients coming in from? So these are all coming in from dyestuffs and chemicals. And then it started as a journey in terms of screening and bifurcating it into different groups. So initially it started with an organization called ZDHC, Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemicals. And now we would see a lot of organizations which will be aligning together. We of course know a lot about GOTS, we know about Blue Sign. Now what is a safe chemistry which could be adopted in the industry today? If anything is conforming to a level 3 conformance with the ZDHC, is something which could be considered as a safe chemistry, because it's not just talking about now the ingredients which are inside, it's also about auditing which is going to happen in the plant in terms of how this manufacturing is actually happening. So one of the matrices which could be looked at. And there are many. So like there are indexes, like we also were trying to follow like the apparel industry in terms of the Sustainability Apparel Coalition, the Higgs Index and so, which was also something which we were trying to closely work with ours and the brands. And from our perspective, what we have been trying to do is we every year, along with our annual report, we also publish our annual sustainability report. Now, this gives a very clear picture in terms of how we have been constantly improving from where we were before. And these are also in terms of understanding what was the kind of water which was used for every kg of chemical manufacturing and what is the average consumption today. So these kind of matrices are also actively published, and we're doing it now regularly every year. And we also constantly engage with brands in terms of also understanding their feedbacks in terms of, what is it that they think about us and where are the areas that we need to improve. And these kind of questions we're also posing to the industry, to the brands, to the experts in the industry, and trying to get their feedback in terms of what more areas of improvement can be done. Now, from an industry perspective, I see there are a lot of challenges which are there in the industry specific to the coloration. Now, saying that, the challenges are very good because it also gives an opportunity in terms of how can we improve. So, I will look at two cases which I would like to present very briefly. One is, you talked about, what is so anti about in terms of what has been offered in the industry. All of us know about Teflon. All of us know about in terms of the oil and water repellent chemistries which have been used. Now it has been used for 40 years now, but suddenly somebody comes up and says it has a lot of ingredients like PFOA and PFOS. These are all chemical species which I would not go into it. Well, if somebody wants to discuss, we can discuss it later. But what was found was the velocity at which these chemicals would travel was they found, at the PFOA and PFOAs, even the blood samples coming in from penguin, which was there in Antarctica. So they were thinking, and also the second aspect which was coming into this kind of chemistries was in terms of the bioelimination and in terms of the half-life. So if you take, let's say, 0.1 gram to become 0.05 will take 10 years. Now, the 0.05 to become half of it will take 10 years more. So it will always be present in the body. So it's not something which is going to be completely eliminated. Some portion is going to be there throughout the lifestyle for how a number of years you're going to live, 70 years, 80 years, something is going to be there in the body. And the industry has also been actively responding to it. Now coming up with options wherein we don't have to go in for an oil and water repellent chemistry based on fluorocarbons. It could also be done using fluorine-free systems. So this is available in the market. The second case is in terms of the challenges which are happening in the coloration industry itself. I'll give a classic example, one example, many more which we discuss if we can discuss in an open forum as well. Classically, a black which is colored in the industry, and this is a real case example. A black knit, for example, it uses a machinery called soft flow. For people who do not know about this, so the soft flows are used for knits. And typically, for producing a knit, the water consumption which is used, in terms of the process, it takes almost 13 to 15 steps in the same soft flow in terms of making a black with the desired performance which is coming in from a brand. So typically, from a water consumption perspective, if we talk about, let's say, 48 to 50 liters per kg was the consumption, on an average consumption for dyeing a black. Now, with us, we are not just providing solutions in terms of dyestuffs and chemicals to the industry, we innovate processes. So we have different systems which we have come up with. There are more than 80 systems to optimize different processes. Especially to this, we looked at this is a beautiful challenge in the industry and how can we find a way together with the industry. So we work closely with brands. There's one French brand which said, okay, we are interested in optimizing what's happening in the industry, and anything which is going to be produced has to be produced with a specific liters per kg of cotton. And finally, when we came out, there was a lot of challenge which was coming from the industry because the industry has a typical way of working, and a change for that matter is not very easy to happen. And finally, when this was done in terms of the process which was set, we came to a conclusion that we could achieve 29 liters per kg for producing the same black, same performance, but now with a much more optimized process. So less water, less energy, less carbon dioxide emission. And there are many.
I feel less worried wearing black now.
We could discuss more. But as I said, there are many challenges in the industry, especially in the coloration industry where we come in from, and there are solutions available. Now it's up to how do we collaborate with brands and how do we collaborate with the industries to make things happen.
Wonderful. First of all, I've learned a lot with the discussions today, and I'm sure the amount of challenges, amount of compliance which happens behind the screen, many of us don't know. And of course, I would have asked provocative questions, but I can empathize with the industry, right? And I still remain that we need to communicate to the consumer what's happening here, because finally, if I have to put this in the earth, most of what is getting into the earth is fiber. The rest all is going to be very less. Therefore, you play a significant role to the overall sustainability of the industry for sure. The last question, 3 words. You have to tell us past, present, and future. 1 word each. Past of cotton, present of cotton, future of cotton, or whichever space.
No, I don't want to pass it here. No, it's not to be passed. So what the past of cotton was...
Yeah, whatever. In your industry, what do you see the future? I think what was, what is, and what will be.
I only think, I have only one word for all the 3 phases, and which I say is gratitude, gratitude, and gratitude. Because that is the gratitude we should have towards cotton, and the gratitudes that we should have towards the resources that we have got from the mother nature, gratitude that we have got from all the people of textile industry who really putting their sweat, their blood behind it, and making the textile industry survive. So that is the only word I have.
Wonderful.
I cannot follow up after this one. I would say, I think, on the feet, I have to think, the past has been linear. We have just taken a journey this way. I think we are trying to figure out a U-turn now, and I think future would be circular. That's where we are.
Awesome.
Yeah, you took that. Okay, so yeah, definitely for us also, I think the past was ESG. As a group, that's been the core philosophy. Present is all about sustainability, and the future is all about circularity and collaboration.
Very challenging question, I would say again. But I think from the chemical industry perspective, the past has been colorful. The present is colorful, but also in a way which we find this to be more sustainable compared to what was happening in the past. The future, I'm very, very hopeful. I'm very positive that it's going to be much more safer in terms of fashion. It's going to be much more sustainable in terms of the matrices which we talked about. In terms of every brand will talk about saving in water and energy for every garment which they're going to put in, and this is already happening. And in terms of circularity, that's the buzzword. And it's not a buzzword, we can see it already happening in the industry. And this we would see that more and more of this will happen as we see in the coming decade.
Wonderful. I think that's a great closure. Thank you.